lot of news today. A Bitcoin project was just hacked. A guy who stole $46 million from the US government has been arrested. We're going to talk about a bunch of other topics too. We'll cover the construction of a data center that could potentially break Bitcoin. We're going to talk about miners and BTC, and we'll talk about Cardano and a lot of other stuff. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CryptoRed, the crypto news channel. Let's start with the BTC price. We have Bitcoin around $68,000, Ether below $2,000. Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about the protocol that just got hacked. I'm talking about Solve protocol. It's a protocol focused on Bitcoin and Bitcoin yield. $2.7 million was stolen. There was a problem, a security issue in the source code. There was a way to mint the tokens twice, and the hacker kept looping that over and over again until they turned a small amount of token into a huge amount. Then they withdrew, they dumped everything and managed to walk away with more than $2.7 million. The good news is that the project said it will reimburse the affected users. This happened in a pool that only had 10 people in it, and they're going to cover the full $2.7 million loss. So well done to Solve for refunding the users, but definitely not well done to Solve for having this vulnerability in the first place. I looked into it a bit and tried to understand how this bug could have happened in the code. From what I could see, it looks like the code involved had not been audited. So basically, part of the code has been audited and another part had not. That's something pretty delicate with projects that push new updates quite regularly. They want to move fast and don't audit certain parts of the code because audits can take a lot of time and cost a lot of money. We've seen this before, and now once again it shows that it can create real problems. For me, this also confirms something about BTC. If you want to go after yield on Bitcoin, you shouldn't be chasing 1 or 2% on this kind of project, because it can create a huge amount of risk for very little upside. If you want to generate yield on BTC, then look for a solution that can generate 10%, 15%. For instance, yield basis. At that point, the risk reward starts becoming interesting, because if you're putting BTC into DeFi, it really has to be worth it. And of course, don't put all your BTC into DeFi just to generate yield. Honestly, that's completely reckless. BTC is something extremely valuable. Yes, you can make it grow, but you need to be careful, know exactly what you're getting into, have a strategy, and be very, very careful about the protocol issues. For example, I've personally never used Solve protocol precisely because the yield wasn't really attractive enough, and I prefer other options. Let's continue with the news. Look at this. The son of a US government contractor has been arrested in France. He was arrested in the island of Saint-Martin with the help of the French gendarmerie, the local police, if you want. You can see it here. This is the FBI director who posted it, of the US. He said that with the help of the French, they arrested this person. You can see a photo of him in handcuffs. He's young. He's allegedly stole $46 million from the US government. The directors say that he is himself a contractor of the US government, but Zach XBT, who actually revealed this case several months ago, said that his father was the one who was a US contractor. Anyway, he stole the money, and he managed to get away. Not get away because he was caught, but he stole at first $46 million in BTC. Look, what can I say? Here in the picture you can recognize some stuff they took when they took him. You can recognize some Trezor crypto wallets. There is no ledger, but there are some YubiKeys which are used for login authentication, basically strong authenticating devices. I can also see a Raspberry Pi. He was arrested. Once again, it's Zach XBT who helped track all of this down. He's really someone incredibly skilled when it comes to finding scams and tracking hackers. He investigates directly on the blockchain. Basically, he analyzes blockchain data, but he also has a lot of sources who contact him. In this case, it was actually a source who reached out to him and gave him videos where the hacker was bragging about having a certain amount of BTC. Zach XBT was able to connect that back to the hack of the US government, and that's how the whole thing unraveled. Honestly, you should know that hackers do get caught regularly. The blockchain is great, but it often leaves traces, public traces. There are patterns too. Even when someone uses Tornado Cash, for example, or other mixing services, if the hacker makes even the smallest mistakes, it can still be traced and the investigator can figure out what actually happens. So don't mess around doing illegal things on the blockchain. In fact, don't mess around doing illegal things. Now, let's move on to another topic, quantum computers and BTC. The news here is that PsiQuantum has started building a very large data center where their goal is to reach 1 million physical qubits. In theory, that would mean there could be enough qubits to break BTC, to break how BTC works, the encryption in BTC. Again, this project has only just started. There's very little chance that Bitcoin could be broken in the next year, for instance, but the company itself said that their goal isn't to break BTC. So they also said that if they ever try to do something like that, people would find out anyway, because they're a company with hundreds of employees. There would inevitably be whistleblowers, for instance. I still think this is something that could happen in the future, that BTC could be broken. But yeah, it's complicated. It's not something that will happen overnight. We still have, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. We need to start thinking seriously about migration solutions for BTC. Bitcoin developers really need to become aware of the risk, because migrating Bitcoin's cryptography will be extremely complicated. It could take years, whereas in the traditional world, changing encryption standards for websites or credit cards, for example, can be done very quickly. If necessary, they could change everything within a year, for instance. And especially since we probably still have 4 or 5 years before quantum becomes a real threat, they have time to prepare and upgrade things gradually. For Bitcoin, it's much more complicated. There are several other issues around this topic. Some philosophical issues. Should we block Satoshi's Bitcoin or not? Let's talk about something else. Let's stay on the BTC subject, but talk about Bitcoin miners moving towards AI. I mentioned this several times also recently, but there are a lot of news about this. For example, Core Scientific just recently received a $500 million loan from Morgan Stanley, which could go up to $1 billion, specifically to continue pivoting toward AI infrastructure, even though they were historically a Bitcoin mining company. At this point, they're basically transitioning heavily into AI. We also have CleanSpark, another mining company. CleanSpark sold 97% of the BTC they mined in February in order to fund the AI side of their business. They're also shifting strongly towards AI. So this trend is continuing, and it's likely going to reduce the share of Bitcoin mining in the United States as more of these companies redirect their resources towards AI. All right, but honestly, I'm not worried about BTC. I've said it before, there will always be miners somewhere, maybe not in the US, but in other countries. Mining will simply move to places where it's more profitable, and the network will adjust the difficulty accordingly. That's how BTC is designed. So yeah, there's no surprise here. But there's something we need to keep an eye on in the long term. Every 4 years, the mining rewards get cut in half. At some point, miners will have to be paid mainly through transaction fees. And the problem is that right now, we're not really seeing meaningful transaction fees on BTC. It just hasn't taken off. We had a little bit of activity with ordinals for a while, but then it calmed down again. What I'm hoping is that new use cases will emerge and create real demand for block space so that miners can be properly rewarded over the long term. Because just hoping that the price of Bitcoin doubles every 4 years and that this alone will keep miners profitable forever, that's simply not realistic. And don't forget that around 2140, there will be 0 new BTC mined. At that point, the system will rely entirely on fees, so transaction fees will become absolutely necessary. There will have to be another solution or a real fee market. Now, moving on to another topic. Justin Sun and his fight with the SEC, the story is now over. Justin Sun and the SEC have reached the settlement. The SEC has dropped its complaint against him. A fine will be paid by Rainberry, the company that used to be called BitTorrent, that Justin Sun acquired. So yes, there will be a fine, but the $10 million fine is nothing for Justin Sun. It's peanuts. The guy has hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars. And it's pretty clear that his influence in the American political sphere may have helped him. Remember that he invested very early in World Liberty Financial. In fact, he was one of the first investors who really believed in the project and put put in a huge amount of money at a time when nobody else wanted to invest. The ICO had launched and almost no one was participating. Justin Sun basically helped to restart the whole machine for World Liberty Financial. And a large part of that money raised during the ICO actually ended up going into the pockets of the Trump's family. Because a significant share of the funds raised during the token sale was redistributed directly to shareholders of World Liberty Financial. Next piece of news, Kazakhstan. The Central Bank of Kazakhstan want to invest about $350 million in assets related to cryptocurrencies, not necessarily just crypto tokens. It could also include mining companies or tech companies connected to the crypto ecosystem. So it's interesting to see a state taking such a significant position and showing that it genuinely believes in the crypto industry. And the strangest piece of news of the day, in my opinion, is about Cardano. Cardano is going to be accepted as a payment method in 137 Spar supermarkets in Switzerland. Honestly, I'm surprised to see that. I would have expected something like stablecoins instead. That would make much more sense. I found it hard to believe and to imagine someone in Switzerland walking into a supermarket and thinking, you know what? I want to pay for my groceries using ADA. I just don't believe that. And to be honest, if you had told me it was Ether, I would have said the exact same thing. These assets aren't really meant to be used directly as a payment method. The most interesting solution I've seen so far for crypto payments are actually systems where you use your crypto as a collateral on the card. Then when you make a payment, the card borrows against your crypto collateral and the payment is made in stablecoin. That's already much more interesting and much more practical. So this thing with paying with Cardano at the supermarket, I don't really get it. To me, it just looks like marketing, probably some kind of deal between the Cardano Foundation and whoever managed the payment infrastructure for the store. But yeah, that's not really the long-term vision for me. Paying directly in crypto at a supermarket isn't the target model. Paying in stablecoins, yes. But paying in volatile token like that, I think it's a bit ridiculous. Anyway, that's my opinion on the subject. That's what I wanted to cover today regarding the latest crypto news. I wish you all a great weekend and I'll see you on Monday for more updates. All right, bye everyone.